How's it going, everyone? Chargers Now is presented by Prize Picks. I am your host, Will Ortner. And on today's program, we're going to decide if the Chargers should try and make a big move this offseason. Now, we know that it's not really General Manager Joe Ortiz's style, but the Chargers certainly have enough cap space to make a move. And we also know that there's a team that might be willing to trade some of their players away. That, of course, being the Cleveland Browns. So maybe now is the time for General Manager Joe Ortiz to say, I can go to the store and get a 20% off deal. Maybe I won't have to give up as much money or as much capital to go and get a player of this caliber that we're going to discuss on today's show. Before we get into who that player is, though, hit the thumbs up button on today's video because you want the Los Angeles Chargers to win the AFC West. Manifest it. We're all about good vibes here. So hit that thumbs up button. So the big news that came over, the airwaves this week was when Adam Schefter, Rap Sheet, and Tom Pelissero put out the news that the Cleveland Browns were moving on from Myles Garrett and they were trading him to that other team in Los Angeles, the Rams. Now, this was a big trade and a big deal that had a lot of people kind of surprised. Maybe not shocked, but certainly surprised. Now, Myles Garrett, he had a very successful career while he was in Cleveland. Obviously, 14 sacks at least every single year for the last 4 years. He's someone that, in my opinion, is the best football player in the National Football League. You can argue a couple other guys, maybe their value is greater, but to me, there's no one who can do the things that Myles Garrett can do. So if the Browns are willing to trade him, then the Browns should be willing to trade pretty much anyone. I'm also not going to sit here and say that trade for Garrett, look, Jarrett Verse is a very good player, and obviously some of those draft picks in the draft capital, it might come back to bite the Rams, but it's not like that trade really set the world on fire. We're not talking about it being a Ricky Williams type of a trade. It was a big trade. I think that both teams can make the argument that they got a little bit better or they have reason to be excited. But it shows that the Browns might be willing to trade some of their big-name players, especially the ones that don't fit on the same timetable. So who else is still over there in Cleveland? Well, Denzel Ward, I think, is a very interesting candidate that at the very least the Chargers should kick the tires on. He is someone that has had a lot of success in the National Football League. He is someone that I believe the Chargers should have an opportunity to be able to sign for a multitude of different reasons. Now, I do think it is important to kind of note this tweet from Jeremy Fowler. Fowler talked about how the Rams just kept hounding the Browns until they were able to get a trade done. And that's kind of what you have to do in these types of situations, right? If the Chargers want to make a move for Ward, they're going to have to hound the Browns to get that deal done. But we are after June 1st, so that makes it easier for the Chargers to go and make a trade for a player of Denzel Ward's caliber. Now, in that same tweet, Jeremy Fowler made it very clear that this is not a fire sale, right? The Cleveland Browns are not doing a 20% off, come and get them. But I'd make the argument that's exactly what the Browns want to say. And that's exactly what the Browns want people to think. So, of course, they're going to say that Denzel Ward is not someone that they're willing to part with. They said that a year or two ago about Myles Garrett. They said that a week ago about Myles Garrett. But then the trade offer became too great. So then they had to be willing to trade Myles Garrett away. So that makes me go, maybe the Chargers can go make a part of their defense even stronger. The Chargers should trade for Denzel Ward. Let me know if you agree or disagree with that sentiment down below in the comment section. Type A for agree. Type D if you disagree. Interested to see where a lot of Charger fans kind of fall on this one. We've got more to talk about here with Denzel Ward and how he can help impact this team. But I do need to let you know that today's show is made possible by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 sports picks app and is the best place to win cash while watching sports. With playoff basketball here, there's no better time to cash in with our friends at Prize Picks. And I'll tell you this, the app, it's really easy to use. To qualify for a Prize Picks lineup, pick 2 to 6 players and select more or less on stat projections, including points, rebounds, assists, three-pointers, hits, home runs, strikeouts, and several others across all sports. One thing I love is the new social feeds feature, where you can share Prize Picks with your friends and copy lineups with a single click. You can actually follow me on the app at BigWill7774 to see all of my lineups. Prize Picks is offering a max discount on Jalen Brunson points for the basketball action going on later on this evening. I have that max discount in my lineup for the basketball action this evening. Jalen Brunson, more on his points. Josh Hart, more on his points, rebounds, and assists. Victor Wembanyama, more on his points. New user offer. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code HMA when you play your first $5 lineup to receive $50 in lineups. That's code HMA when you play your first $5 lineup to get an extra $50 in lineups with Prize Picks. Clickable link to download the app is in the comments and description. Denzel Ward is obviously someone who's had a very successful career. Now, last year was a bit of a down year, but I also think it's important to note that everything was kind of down in Cleveland this last year, unless your name was Myles Garrett. But he is someone that forces a lot of turnovers. He's also someone that is very clearly able to lock down a player, lock down a side of the field. Not a whole lot of passes are completed on Ward, so much so that some teams don't even target their wide receivers that are being guarded by Ward. So it's very clear that he is someone that can be an immediate addition onto this team. Now, I'm not here to downplay or really attack any of the players on the Los Angeles Chargers, but I think that the secondary could definitely use a little bit of help. Now, I'm not going to beat up on any of the corners for the Chargers. I think that there's a lot of successful players on that crew. In fact, in my opinion, Cam Hart, friend of the program, is someone that I think is going to be able to really add in to this team and has continued to show that he is worth being a part of this crew. He had a lot of success last year. He's going to continue to have a lot of success with this team. But I believe that Ward is someone that can easily be thrown into this lineup and have a lot of success. Well, we look at the depth chart for the Chargers. Obviously, like I said, I like what this secondary looks like. But can it be better? Yes, of course it can be better. There is this issue, I think, at times in the National Football League where we settle for just good enough. Why be just good enough when you can be even better? Ward would greatly improve this group. Why be good, which is what the Chargers are, when you can be great? How often do we as a society, as people, settle for being average? Now, I'm not saying that that's what that Chargers secondary is, and I'm not trying to take any attacks on anybody. But to sit here and say that Denzel Ward would not help improve this secondary would be wrong. Denzel Ward is under contract for the next 2 years. So the Chargers, if they made a trade for him, it would not be a one-year rental type of situation. They'd be able to keep him for the next 2 years. And essentially, Ward is going to have a $30 million cap hit this year and a $29 million cap hit next year. So he's going to be expensive, but the Chargers do have the cap space available at the very least to make this year work. And then they can do some maneuvering elsewhere. There's a reason why General Manager Joe Ortiz has been put in charge of this Chargers team. He is going to have to be able to make it work, and I think that he really can. When we look at what a potential trade would end up being for Denzel Ward, it's going to be expensive. Denzel Ward is going to, at the very least, cost a day 2 pick. Probably going to cost a second-round pick. Now, my trade idea is essentially the Chargers trade their second-round pick for Denzel Ward. And a big reason for that is because I think the Chargers are going to end up having multiple round 3 picks because of the Odafe Oweh comp pick formula. But I don't think that a third-round pick is going to be enough. I think you got to give up a second-round pick. And I think it's a smart move if the Chargers want to do this because they are essentially in a win-now mode. Denzel Ward is someone who fits that mold. There's a lot of guys that fit that mold on this roster, but I do think that Denzel Ward would really improve this team. Would you make this trade idea? Let me know down below in the comment section, yes or no. Is this a move that you would like the Los Angeles Chargers to do? Is this a move that you think would help improve this team? Because I certainly think that it would. It's also important, though, to mention, I don't know that this is likely. General Manager Joe Ortiz has made it very clear that he is a draft GM. He's not a trade GM. He's not a big-name signing free agent GM. He's a guy that says, I trust how I evaluate. I trust how my scouts find talent. And I go in and I bring these guys onto this team. We saw 2 years ago with Philadelphia. We saw last year with the Seattle Seahawks. The teams that win Super Bowls typically have great depth. You need talent. Chargers have it. But what Joe Ortiz has been doing is building depth on this roster. That way, if one guy goes down, you aren't completely hosed for the next season. It is important that the Chargers keep that depth. But to sit here and have Joe Ortiz not make the call, that would be organizational malpractice. I think that he should make the call. The question is, will he? Make sure that you hit the thumbs up button if you're excited for this Charger season. If you think this trade is a good idea, like the video. If you don't think the trade is a good idea, like it anyways. Hit that subscribe button. We've got you covered on the latest Chargers news, as well as any rumors that could be floating around on your favorite team in LA. Thank you guys so much for viewing today's video. Go tell someone that you love them. And as always, bolt up.